Hi, today we are going to talk about the gridding method. Hopefully this is just a review for you in case you need a refresher, but we're also going to go back into a little bit about the technique and the history behind it just to make certain. So to begin with, we're going to talk about the artist who was responsible for creating what's called a drawing frame that used a grid that allowed him to use the gridding method with a tool to redraw images. So Albrecht Durer, depending on how you want to pronounce it, I've heard a couple different pronunciations, but my stepmother is German and she says Durer. So he is a German artist who was born in 1471, 1528, and again was part of the German Renaissance. He, like I said, like a lot of our other artists, was interested in creating the illusion of depth on a two-dimensional surface. So in other words, making things look three-dimensional. He created what's called a drawing frame, as you can see in this picture here and in this one. And these are both woodcut block prints that he made. So what the artist had was this wooden frame with a grid, probably made out of string, attached to the front of it. And then they had a drawing surface in front of them that also had a grid. And so the artist would look through the grid at their subject and box by box would redraw what they were, or I shouldn't say redraw, they would draw what they were seeing on the original subject onto their canvas so that that illusion of depth was captured. So again, Albrecht Durer was one of the most famous artists to use this method, and he's credited with creating it. So, going from that, again, it's a great technique, a great method, the gridding method, for drawing an object, breaking it into smaller parts so that you're able to see smaller chunks at a time instead of one whole large picture. To be able to do that, since we do not have those drawing frames like he used, we have to be able to create grids. A lot of students call these graphs because graph paper also has parallel vertical and horizontal lines that create a grid. But again, for us, we need to be able to put grids over top of original images and then also on our canvases so that you can correspond the boxes and redraw your image. So let's start by practicing making some grids. In class, what we've done is start simple. We start with just a basic 1-inch grid. So I have my ruler and a pencil, and I'm going to line my ruler up on the edge of my paper. Your paper has that 90-degree edge, and you want to use that to your advantage so that you can keep it as accurate as possible. A lot of students like to kind of come in from the edge and then start drawing their grid so that instead of having having the grid, I was trying to find an example really quick, having the grid start right on the corner of the paper, they like to leave a little bit of a gap. And that's fine, but if you decide that you want to do that, you need to also check to make sure that your gap is even. So if you come down 1/4 of an inch here before you start your first edge of your grid, then at the other opposite edge of the grid, it should also be 1/4 of an inch. It is honestly a little easier to just use the edge of the paper as it is, but some students just don't like the look of that. So it's up to you to go about doing it. Just make sure you're being as accurate as possible. So again, we start our ruler, first things first, on the 0 lined up right on the edge of the paper near the top corner. And then we're going to put a small mark, hopefully that'll show up on the screen, at every whole inch mark. And I'm just going to do a few to give you an example. So there's 4 inches worth. The next step, a lot of students want to just turn their ruler the opposite direction and kind of use the edge and visually line up where the ruler should go. But that leaves a lot of room for error. We want to make certain that our lines are completely parallel to each other, meaning that the space between every line stays consistent all the way across our grid. So I'm going to slide my ruler down a little bit. There is not a rule about how far you need to come down. You just want to try and keep it even. And I'm also going to put a set of corresponding dots at the same measurement down lower. Something to keep in mind is that these dots that you're putting to mark where to go, you don't want to have a huge circle for a dot. It does make it easier to see, which is great, but it also leaves a lot more room for error. A dot that big potentially could put you off a whole 1/8 of an inch when you're making your grid, which doesn't sound like a lot, but an 1/8 of an inch on every single row adds up to a full inch pretty quickly. So we've got one set of dots going across the top, one set of dots evenly spaced at 1 inch going across the middle. I'm going to turn my ruler and my paper and connect the dots. It's that easy. So that would give us all of our, I guess depending on how you're holding paper, your horizontal lines. But then we also need the lines that go the opposite direction. So if these are our horizontals, we need some verticals, evenly spaced. Because I want to make certain that I'm not accidentally measuring from different sides. If I start here on the left, I want to keep my ruler straight and finish on the left. I'm going to hold my paper so that it goes off the screen a little bit, line it up on the 0, and mark every whole inch again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. Slide my ruler down, line it up on 0. And remember, keep the slide. Don't try and twist your paper around. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, just like we did before, we're going to turn our paper, line up our ruler. I recommend using a really sharp pencil to keep your lines clean with this. And connect opposite dots. And that means that we have a grid with evenly spaced 1 inch squares or boxes. Okay, so doing it that way is fairly simple. Keep in mind, one extra thing is that the width of your ruler, as you can see, is wider than 1 inch. So if you're just tracing your ruler, that's not a 1 inch grid and your answers are not correct. Where it gets tricky is when we do things like a 3/4 of an inch grid. If you put a 1 inch grid over top of your original image, but you want to make that image larger, then you would go to your canvas and do a grid that had larger boxes in between. The spaces between each of your horizontal and vertical lines would be slightly larger, maybe even significantly larger. Maybe you want to do a mural on a wall. So you're going from something that's 1 inch square to maybe a whole foot. So you have to be able to use multiple measurements on your ruler. Not every single thing is just going to be a solid 1 inch. So we're going to practice doing 3/4 of an inch. That's one that we have to do in class as an assignment. And it's one that a lot of students feel a little uncomfortable with. So on my ruler, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start this one in this corner, is mark the first 3/4 of an inch. We've just finished reading a ruler and learning how to do that, so I'm not going to review that in this video. You should be able to find 3/4 of an inch, that's 3/4, on your ruler without much trouble. So I've marked my ruler, or lined my ruler up at 0, marked my first 3/4 of an inch. Now the next thing I need to do is mark the next 3/4 of an inch. And what a lot of students do that is incorrect is they start after 1, find the next 3/4 of an inch, and put a dot. But if you kept doing that, all you're going to do is end up with a 1 inch grid that starts 3/4 of an inch away from the edge of the paper. We want a grid that has 3/4 of an inch space in between our vertical and horizontal lines. What we do to make sure that happens is instead of starting back over with the next whole inch, I want you to just count from where you left off. And once you start kind of getting that habit, it's easy to spot those 1/4 of an inch. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, I would do the same thing, slide my ruler down as I did last time, mark the first 1, 2, 3, 3/4 of an inch, mark the next 3/4, 1, 2, 3. So like I said, we're starting where the last one ended, so that they're 3/4 of an inch in between each mark. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then, just like last time, we're going to connect our lines by matching up opposite dots. And then, I don't think I probably need to show you again how to do it going the opposite direction because it's the exact same pattern repeating. You just turn your paper the opposite way. So for this one, I'd line up on 0, mark the first 3/4 of an inch, the second 3/4 of an inch, and so on. Slide your ruler down, line it up on 0, mark the first 3/4, the second 3/4, and so on. Turn your paper, connect opposite dots, and we should end up with a grid that has 3/4 of an inch squared spaces. So when you're using the grid, that's the next important thing. It is often helpful to turn your picture upside down. We've talked about upside down drawing and how that tells your brain to stop thinking about this as being a boat and start thinking of it as just being basic shapes and lines and to looking at the space in between them. And it also helps to number and letter your grid lines so that you don't get lost while you're working. It is super easy to do. So I like to do a combination of numbers and letters on both the canvas and on the original image. And that way I can say I need box A1 or D4, which one I'm working on. So if I were doing just A1, and sometimes it's helpful to maybe cut out a little sheet of paper with a hole in it so that you can only see that one box at a time. I'm going to see about putting this line in. It is not quite halfway up. It goes across with a few little bumps along the way. So not quite halfway up. A short bump to begin, and then a longer one. I think mine might be a little too long, but since I'm focused on one box at a time, it's a little easier to go back and make corrections without feeling like I'm having to start totally over. Just above that, about maybe a 1/16 of an inch, we have this line that starts kind of in the middle and goes across with 2 lumps in it. 2. Just above that, we have that little slash shape. And then there's this little dot over here. So you're including all the little details, but just going one box at a time. A lot of students find it helpful to cross that one out when you've finished it. Now we move into the next one. You've got this shape that kind of goes across, curving down towards the end. I find it helpful to kind of lightly sketch it in, and then when I feel more comfortable and confident about the lines that I've selected, then I darken them up and clean up my lines. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, all in one go. That's the awesome thing about working with a grid. Just do little pieces at a time. If we were working on something that we wanted to be a final project, again, this will just be for practice, but for instance, if you wanted to make a portrait of someone and you didn't want to have these grid lines showing up on the portrait, what you could do is create your grid, use your original image to draw your picture onto the grid that you've created, and then use the light table to trace just the lines that show your drawing, leaving out those grid lines so that way you don't have to go back and erase and risk tearing up the paper or having those lines still show through or having indentations that keep your medium from setting into the paper. And that is all for grids. Let's get practicing.